Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Charlie Gibson. I'm the outreach coordinator here at the Michigan Science Center, and so what I do is I take programming out to schools, and I'm working very hard for them to let me take this program out to schools. So maybe you guys can invite me out, and I'll bring some cool critters out to your classroom. That's what's under here. I didn't want anybody peeking or getting too afraid quite yet, all right? But what I'm going to try to do today is kind of break some of those fears. I want you guys to sort of embrace spiders and other arachnids, and I want you to know that they're not as scary as you might think they are, okay? Who here, by the way, is scared of spiders? Most, you know what, it's funny, most of you are sitting way back there. Okay, all right. Well, let's hopefully we'll be able to break some of those fears by the end. And at the end, I'll actually invite you down and we can hold some spiders and scorpions and things like that. All right? I know you want to, and we'll get to that at the end, okay? So again, my name is Charlie, and I'm sure you may have seen this picture on Facebook or advertised somewhere. I am what some would call an arachno enthusiast, an arachnoholic. A Spider-Man, yeah. Spiders are kind of my thing, and this is sort of a new thing for me. I didn't really start liking tarantulas until about 3 or 4 years ago. The story was kind of funny. I've always had lots of pets and lots of critters growing up, but when I walked into a pet store one day and I saw a spider, it was like $5. I said, why not? Right? I brought it home, didn't tell my mom. Kept it under my bed, actually, for a couple weeks before I told her about it. And finally, that feeling, that cool feeling of holding a tarantula, it's almost like a disease. I just wanted more and more and more and more and more. So I think my collection now stands at about 20 to 25. I don't really keep track. I know that's sort of weird. I should have a definite count so when I go through I know none have escaped. We'll talk lots about the different spiders and things that I have at the end. But what I would like to do is take you through sort of an 8-step program, 8 legs, 8 steps, to welcoming arachnids into your life. And so we'll talk more about arachnids and the different kinds at the very end, but I want you guys to follow these steps, okay? And maybe you go through these steps really quickly, and by the end, you're not afraid anymore, okay? So our first step, we admitted we were powerless over arachnids. We all know that ants outnumber us like crazy, right? The human biomass stands at some certain number. I'm not too familiar with that, but we know that there's way, way, way more ants. If you took all of the ants on planet Earth and weighed them, they would weigh tons of times more than how much all the humans would weigh. Does that make sense? So the biomass is astronomical, and we can say that about arachnids as well. Okay, so there's no getting rid of them. They're always going to be here. They're all around us. Let's just live with them, right? All right, so we came to understand that learning about arachnids can restore us to our sanity. Who has seen a spider in their bathroom and literally freaked out? Okay, you know you're insane, right? There's no reason to do that. And hopefully by the end of this, I'll teach you a little bit about them, and you'll understand that maybe that is a little bit irrational, and I don't need to react like that. We made a list of all the arachnids we have harmed and recognized how they were helpful to our environment. I realize this would be very difficult for some of you. Writing a list of every spider you've stomped on. We'll have a moment of silence. No. But kind of recognizing that maybe that spider didn't deserve that. Maybe that scorpion didn't deserve to die by fire, right? So we'll see what else. Admitted to ourselves and another human being the exact nature of our wrong. So if you can sort of talk it out with somebody else, say, yeah, maybe that wasn't totally right of me, and maybe that spider had a family, right? Made direct amends with the arachnids whenever possible. Okay, so probably very difficult as well. But here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking if you give the spider the right environment, maybe your basement, cool, dark, damp, just leave them down there. Let them be happy. Let them live out their life. All right? It's the least you can do. We continue to take personal inventory, and when we are wrong, we promptly admit it. So again, don't stomp spiders. All right? Realize to yourself that that's not the way to go. We sought to improve our contact with arachnids, for our knowledge of them will give us the power to carry that out. So through understanding, we won't be afraid of them, we won't need to kill them, we can let them live peacefully. And our final step, having had an awakening, as the result of these steps, we carry this message to our friends and practice these principles in all of our affairs. So that's what I'm hoping we'll get by the end of the presentation. Tell a friend, tell them what you've learned, take some pictures with a spider, tell them that it wasn't so bad, and maybe we can all make this a little bit better of a place, okay? So let's get into the information a little bit more. They're not just spiders. So who knew that? Who knew that arachnids were not just spiders? Okay, all right. So we've got scorpions. Scorpions are not spiders, but they're definitely arachnids, and we've got a whole long list of them. So you've probably recognized this list before, especially if you've learned this in school. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. The class, of course, is arachnids. Our order, there's 11 of them. There's 11 living orders of arachnids, okay? Kingdom, what would our kingdom be? Animals, right? How about our phylum? Anybody know? Arthropods. Arthropods. So they do have an exoskeleton, and we'll talk more about that. All right, so our orders of arachnids are Acari, Amblypygi, Araneopiliums, Palpa Grotty, Pseudoscorpionida, Racinilae, Schizomida, Scorpions, Solhugea, and Thelephonida. Have you heard of any of those? All right, so let's talk about some of the less common ones. We have Palpa Grotty, Racinilae, and Schizomida, micro whip scorpions, hooded tick spiders, and short-tailed whip scorpions. These are really, really small arachnids. You'll probably never encounter them. There's not very many of them, okay? So these are sort of what they look like. We have our Palpa Grotty here. Really, really tiny, really tiny. We have Racinilae up here, hooded tick spiders. That one's kind of cool looking, don't you think? Is anybody warming up just yet? Anybody finding them cute yet? And then we have a Schizomida down here. Again, not very common, but worth learning about. Pseudoscorpions. All right, relatively large pincers to the size of their body, okay? But you'll notice there's no tail on this scorpion. Okay, so no stinging power, no venom on this guy. Acari. Okay, so Acari are mites and ticks. Did you know that mites and ticks were arachnids? Mites and ticks, some are parasites, some are omnivores. Some feed on fungus, some feed on other animals, some even feed on vegetation. Okay, this is a really large order. There's probably over 50,000 described species in this order. So someone who studies spiders would be called an arachnologist, right? And someone who studies mites and ticks, because this is such a large order, they have their own name. They're called acarologists, all right? So then we have Thelephonida. These are whip scorpions. I've got one of these for you guys to hold, okay? Now you should know they possess no venom glands, okay? And those really strong pedipalps that they have up front, that's just what they grab their food with. They're not going to pinch you. They're not going to do anything dangerous to you. But you notice this whip, and this is where they get their name, this whip on the tail of, on their abdomen. They call them whip scorpions. It's actually like a thin straw. And when they feel real agitated, okay, maybe in the wild, maybe there's something, a predator that comes up to them, they'll actually spray a vinegar-like substance at their predator so that they don't get injured, okay? So this particular species is actually called a vinegaroon. Vinegar. All right, then we have Solhugea. These are sun spiders and camel spiders. These are pretty popular in the media. They like to show the troops over in the Middle East holding them up, and they look like they're this big. Has anybody seen that picture? Yeah, it's not true. There's no way they're this big. They do get about this long. These camel spiders that we talk about. These guys are particularly nasty, I will say. If I had to admit anything, these are particularly nasty. Again, no venom glands, but they do have extremely strong jaws. And if you've ever seen one of these eat, you can actually YouTube videos of these guys eating. They just go to town. They shred it up like crazy. So not aggressive, but defensive if you were to encounter one. Then we have scorpions. This is an emperor scorpion. Again, I have one of these for you guys to hold. Scorpions are particularly interesting. They are venomous. So I should mention, when I've been continuing to say venom. We know that they're venomous, not poisonous. All these things that I've mentioned to you, you can eat. Not that you would eat them, although they do in some countries. They are venomous. Venom is injected into your bloodstream. Poison is ingested. So if you were to eat these, you'd be okay. But if you get stung by a venomous animal, then it would affect you a little bit. This is an emperor scorpion, generally a pretty docile species of scorpion, and it's why it's very popular in the pet trade. They do get about 8 to 9 inches long. So they're pretty large scorpions. The general rule here with scorpions is the larger the pincers, the less potent their venom. So if you do encounter a scorpion with really tiny, tiny pincers, but it's a pretty big scorpion, you want to stay away from those. They've got a real big fat tail. Those are definitely pretty dangerous. We'll talk more about those when I lift up this sheet here. Opiliones are harvestmen. So this is one myth that I definitely want to dispel. The daddy longlegs has no venom glands. No venom glands. So we often hear that the daddy longlegs is the most poisonous spider. First of all, not a spider. Not a spider. It's actually an opilione. So it's technically an arachnid, but we don't call it a spider. The true spider category would be Araneae, and we'll get to that last. So not a spider and no venom glands. They do have very, very small fangs, but they eat vegetation. They eat decaying plant material. They eat decaying animal material. So they're omnivores. Nothing to be afraid of there. And they're also distinguished because they look like they have one body part. On some spiders, you'll see 2 distinct body parts. This one is almost melded into one. All right, amblypygi. Has anybody seen the Harry Potter movies? Does this look familiar? Or did anybody watch Fear Factor? They actually ate these on Fear Factor. I don't think you could pay me to eat one of these. And not just because I love them. But these are tailless whip scorpions. So we saw the whip scorpion, okay, with the long whip, the vinegaroon. This is a tailless whip scorpion. Again, no venom glands, no fangs, actually. They have these real large, long pedipalps that they open up and they attack their food, and there's barbs on the inside, and they hold it in place. You also might notice that it looks like they only have 6 legs. But these long whips, those whips that are kind of folded in a couple different directions, those are modified legs. So over time, evolution has changed these legs into sort of sensory organs, so that when they sit there, they kind of just go like this. All right? I've got another one of these that we can take a look at, but I'd rather not have people handle it because it's extremely fragile and it can be kind of fast. And then we get to true spiders, okay? So true spiders, these are your orb weavers, your wolf spiders, your tarantulas, all of these things. And I just want to show you some of the photos that I have here are really to show you how fascinating these animals are. So this is a peacock jumping spider. A really small animal, but it's a really fascinating creature because it has a mating ritual in which it puts up this flap and it does a little dance in front of its mate. It's pretty cool. Another really interesting looking spider. Kind of looks like bird poop, doesn't it? This is called a rainbow orb weaver. Another really fascinating spider. This one has adapted to actually look like a ladybug. Okay. If anybody has ever held a ladybug and you get some of that stuff on you, it's particularly gross, isn't it? And that would taste really gross to an animal that were about to eat it. So it's a pretty good defense mechanism. This is one of my favorite tarantulas. Unfortunately, I don't have one at this time, but this is called a Gouty sapphire ornamental tarantula. It's really beautiful, isn't it? And then this guy, or I should say it's a girl. This is a wolf spider. So a really, really large family of spiders called Lycosidae. These are your wolf spiders. wolf spiders actually carry their young with them. So after their egg sac hatches, they'll carry all the babies with them. It looks more frightening than it is. And then how about that one? This is a happy-faced spider. Not frightening at all. No way. And then check out those eyes. Isn't that cool? So, let's just go over one more time. We have Acariar mites and ticks of very, very large order. We have Amblypygi. There's a bunch of different kinds of tailless whip scorpions, and we do have these in the United States. They like to live in caves. Arachnids, true spiders, over 40,000 described species all over the world except Antarctica. We also have opiliones. Those are harvestmen, our daddy longlegs. Palpa Grotty, micro whip scorpions. Pseudoscorpions, Raciniulae, schizomyids, scorpions, lots of scorpions. Solhugids, and Europygi, or what we call Thelephonida. All right, so took you through the 8-step program. You are on your way. So I'm going to leave you with this. Grant me the serenity to accept arachnids, the courage to let them live peacefully around me, and wisdom to know they won't eat me in my sleep. Okay? So before we finish, I'm going to sort of reveal the different things we've got right here. And then I'm going to set them all loose. No, I'm just kidding. No, we won't set them all loose, but I want to take some questions. And then after our questions, I'll bring you guys down and we can gather around here and hold some arachnids. Up there, you have a question? Where do wolf spiders live? All over the United States and all over the world. So real temperate climates like we have here, wolf spiders are pretty much everywhere. Yep. What'd you say? You gotta speak up a little bit. If one of these got out? If it bit you. Okay, so if one of these spiders bit you, okay, their venoms range in potency. So some of these are a bit more potent. We don't handle those. Okay, the one that I will let you guys hold, it would be similar to a bee sting. So I would say if you are allergic to bees, you probably don't want to do this because there's always the risk, right? They do have large fangs. It would really hurt, those fangs sinking into your skin, but the venom probably wouldn't be too potent. Yeah. Yeah. So Australia is kind of unique in that they have a lot of really dangerous animals, and we can kind of attribute that to them being isolated on their own little island. There's a spider there that is probably the most venomous. The name is escaping me at this time. But here in the United States, the brown recluse is probably ounce for ounce the most dangerous spider. And I should say that we don't have brown recluse in Michigan. There are no brown recluse in Michigan. The only way they find their way up here is if, like in shipping packages and things like that. So people often think that they see a brown recluse. Most often it's not. Most often it's not. It's not a brown recluse. And they are very small. They're really small spiders. The black widow, the northern black widow, can be found in Michigan. But again, a very uncommon spider to see. Any other questions? Yeah. Is it common to find wolf spiders in your backyard? Yes. Yeah, they're all over the place. And actually, they'll when they have their egg sac, they kind of carry it underneath them. So they'll use their second and third pairs of legs to hold the egg sac underneath while they'll walk on their first and fourth pairs. It's pretty cool. Anybody else? You guys just want to hold some spiders, don't you? Yeah. How do you feed them? Okay, cool. So I actually brought some crickets. So once you guys come up here, if you guys are interested, we'll feed a couple of them. And I'll show you how to do that. I do that with a very long pair of tongs. I don't reach in. Most often I don't reach in. But they do all eat crickets. They eat usually about once a week. We could probably feed them a lot more, but in the wild they wouldn't eat as regularly. And so if we were to feed them very regularly in captivity, they would actually eat so much that they would burst. Yeah, kind of like me. Anything else? You guys just got to get up here, don't you?
Isn't that the way when they grow, don't they in fact burst through their skin?
Yeah, so in these frames up here, you guys will find some of the exoskeletons from a couple of the tarantulas I have, and actually the Tailless whip scorpion up here. So what they'll do, the tarantula will actually flip on its back. Okay, so if you're a beginner and you're keeping a tarantula, most people think, oh great, it's dead. No, they actually flip up over on their back, and the legs kind of curl inside like this, and they do this weird pulsing thing. They kind of pulse. And what they're doing is they're actually pumping this fluid into their limbs, okay? And it kind of helps them slide the entire exoskeleton off of them. So the back, the carapace pops off, and they slide the rest of the body right off of them, and a totally new tarantula emerges. It's really fascinating to watch. So I've mounted a couple of those exoskeleton molts. And these are actually exposed so you can see inside. Anything else? All right, come on down.